Welcome to our explainer. Today, we're digging into something we all do when we read. But in the context of the Quran, it changes, well, everything. We're talking about the simple act of pausing. I mean, really think about that for a second. In any book you read, a pause is for rhythm, right? It separates ideas, lets you catch your breath. But what happens when that text is believed to be the literal word of God? All of a sudden, where you choose to pause isn't just a style choice, it's about getting the meaning right. You know, in the science of reciting the Quran properly, which is called tajweed, the rules for stopping are incredibly precise. They aren't just suggestions, they're more like a framework built to protect the divine message itself. So let's explore how these rules work. Okay, so to really understand the art of the stop, we have to start with two basic types of pauses. Now, they might sound pretty similar, but in the world of tajweed, believe me, they are worlds apart. First up, we have al-waqf. This is the one you're probably most familiar with. It's really just stopping on a word long enough to take a breath before you start reciting again. This is the bedrock of our whole conversation today. And this chart here makes the difference crystal clear. A waqf is a stop with a breath. A sakt, on the other hand, is a very rare and specific rule for a quick pause where you don't take a breath. For this explainer, we're going to focus entirely on a waqf, that intentional stop where you breathe. So, it turns out this stop, a waqf, isn't just one thing. Tajweed actually breaks it down into 4 different scenarios. And understanding these is absolutely key for anyone who wants to recite the Quran accurately. We've got the testing stop, the emergency stop, the waiting stop, and the voluntary stop. Now, the first 3 are basically dictated by the situation you're in, but that last one, well, that one is all about your choice. So let's start with the first one, al-waqf al-ikhtibari, or the testing stop. And just like the name says, this isn't a stop you'd make when you're just reading by yourself. It really only happens in a teaching setting. The whole point of this stop is educational. A teacher might ask a student to pause right in the middle of a phrase on a very specific word, just to check if they know a certain rule or how to pronounce a tricky letter correctly. Here's a perfect example of how that works. A teacher could ask a student to stop on the word wara. Why there? To see if the student can properly pronounce that final letter, the hamza, when it comes at the end of a word. It's like a little diagnostic tool. All right, next is the emergency stop, or al-waqf al-ittirari. And this is the one we've all been through, right? Whether you're reciting the Quran or just reading a book out loud, this is the stop you're forced to make. I mean, life happens. You might need to sneeze, or you run out of breath, or maybe your mind just goes blank. The rules of tajweed are really practical. They totally get that. You're allowed to stop wherever you need to, but, and this is a big but, the real test is how you start again. And here is a powerful example of why restarting correctly is so critical. In this verse, the Prophet Harun is speaking to his brother Musa. The phrase starts, "O son of my mother." Now just imagine you ran out of breath and had to stop right after the word for son. If you just took a breath and then started again from the very next word, Oma, you'd be saying, mother, indeed, the people. See what happened? You've completely changed who he's talking to, from his brother to his mother. And that totally twists the meaning of the verse. You absolutely have to go back and restart from a place that keeps the original meaning intact. So, our third type of stop is much more specialized. It's called al-waqf al-intizari, the waiting stop. This is a technique that's mostly used by scholars and really advanced students when they're studying the different authentic ways the Quran is recited, known as the riwayat. So when a scholar is teaching or demonstrating these different riwayats, they might pause on one word that has, say, 3 valid ways it can be pronounced. They'll stop, recite the word in all 3 ways, one right after the other, and then they'll continue on. It's a method for deep study and comparison. And that brings us to the big one, our 4th and final type, al-waqf al-ikhtiyari, the voluntary stop. This is without a doubt the most common, the most important, and it's the one that applies to every single one of us in our daily recitation. This is the stop we make by choice. So think about it. The other 3 stops are all based on circumstances, right? A test, an emergency, or a scholarly need. But this one is totally different. This one is all on you. The voluntary stop, or al-waqf al-ikhtiyari, is simply you deciding where to pause to take a breath, all based on your own understanding of where a thought or a sentence feels complete. This stop is what shapes the entire flow and feeling of your personal recitation. And this right here is the most important thing to remember. Because this stop is your choice, you are held accountable for it. The place you choose to pause can't create a weird or improper meaning. This is where your knowledge and your reverence for the text really come together. So, let's bring all this together. What have we seen? We've seen that a pause is never just a pause when it comes to the Quran. It's a precise, regulated action that has huge implications for the meaning of the text. These 4 types of stops, the testing, emergency, waiting, and voluntary, they're basically the essential tools in your recitation toolkit. They give you a complete guide for navigating the sacred text with the precision and the respect that it deserves. At the end of the day, understanding these rules really does transform your recitation. It lifts it from just saying words on a page to consciously preserving and sharing their intended sacred meaning. It's a discipline that connects you so much more deeply to the text. And that leaves us with a question worth thinking about. The next time you recite, is your pause just a space for you to take a breath, or is it a space for the meaning to breathe to? Because the art of the stop is truly the art of understanding.
إن أعجبك الفيديو لا تنسى الإعجاب والاشتراك في القناة.